Growth, it's a beautiful word. It sparks images of new homes, vibrant streets, thriving communities. But behind every promising development lies something far less romantic. Infrastructure contributions, development levies, growth charges. Today we're talking about what every smart investor needs to know. Not the fluff, not the bullshit, the truth. And to help us cut through the jargon is expert property investor and friend of the show, Dave Whitburn. If you care about margins, timelines, or turning opportunity into something real, this is the conversation you don't want to miss.
Financial freedom faster. Financial freedom faster.
And if you like making money rather than watching everyone else do it, hit that subscribe button because the numbers don't lie. More investors are getting the New Zealand housing and real estate intel from this show than any other YouTube channel in 2025. Dave, what are development contributions and the infrastructure growth charges, the IGCs, and how do they differ?
Some councils or territorial authorities call these financial contributions, otherwise they're development contributions. So these are a creature of the local government act. So what happens is, instead of hitting the general ratepayer basis that used to happen for decades previously when my grandfather was building and developing, they would think, oh, it's a little bit unpopular doing that because we're going to have to put some rates up. So they're thinking these developers are making a lot of money, investors are making money by carving off their land and doing new subdivisions. So let's get our pound of flesh out of this group, because that then enables us to keep the rate pool coming down. So as a result, they have these contributions that is a charge for infrastructure, because each section does require a bit of capital being spent. There's a new sewer connection, a new stormwater connection. There's going to be extra pressure on roads, libraries, cemeteries. There's going to be pressure on councils for expenditure. So there's going to be things like roads, there's going to be stormwater, sewer upgrades. There are more services being placed on them. Won't split them all out. So these are some capital inputs that is a more palatable way that most councils and territorial authorities have to get money back. So those terms can be used interchangeably. Development contributions, financial contributions. Some of them, like Auckland Council, they have a thing called a Watercare Infrastructure Growth Charge. Watercare Services Limited is a council-owned organisation. It's a company that Auckland Council owns 100% of the shares of. That looks after the water, the fresh water, and the stormwater, not the stormwater. The stormwater is just your runoff there. So the sanitary sewer or the wastewater and the fresh water are Watercare's responsibility. For that, they will charge what's called an infrastructure growth charge. These charges are going up on the 1st of July. So that's another thing that we've got to factor in for developing. I am aware of criticism about being a little bit Auckland-centric, of course. So it's just the reality is I'm not aware of a single council or territorial authority across the entire of the country that's not putting their rates up.
And what are these charges paid during the development process, and who's paying them?
Yeah, these charges are through the development process, and if you don't pay them, you're not going to get your titles issued. So if it's a new subdivision, perhaps you're doing a land development, perhaps it's just an infill development. If you're going to go through, one of your conditions of consent would be to get your 224C. To get that, you're going to have to pay your charges to do that. However, if you're not creating any new titles, there'll be a charge there that can be levied at the building consent stage, because you're creating new pressure on you're going to get have a cooking facility, you're going to have a bathroom, kitchen in there. So they're going to take their pound of flesh out of you for these. Sometimes the rules do differ depending on the sizes of the building. So it's just a charge that's levied on for new growth.
And how is this tied in with the land rates? Obviously, rates go up. Is this impacting that side of the equation as well?
It mitigates the rates going up. However, the rates are going up. It's the same again, which council or territorial authority is not putting the rates up. Here in Auckland, which is the largest territorial authority, it's just over a third of the entire pool of ratepayers across the country. They're going up by 5.8%. That's in practice, that's about $223 per annum, and the average Auckland property is worth $1.29 million. That's the average Auckland rateable property there, so that's obviously different to the median because it's skewed by some higher priced ones. So that's done with this apportionment exercise. We've actually had quite a number of your clients you've mentioned have been wondering, what does this mean to me? My CV's gone down, and in many cases they have gone down quite sharply. Well, If you've gone down more than the average, you'll be paying a lower amount of that rates increase there. In general, though, most people find that with councils putting their rates up, and since we haven't had these valuations done since the 1st of June in 2021, the market's gone down since then. It's been a slightly tough 4-year period, so it's just that the cost for providing the services has gone up, so don't expect a massive cut in your rates. It's just changed it's a bit of a reshuffle of the cards, that's all.
And how do you estimate these infrastructure and development contributions for projects that you're planning?
Yeah, sure thing. Now, these are very different depending on the area that you're on, and sometimes within Auckland, some of the areas will have some higher costs there. Areas that don't have much infrastructure in place, for example, around Drury in Auckland South, getting towards the southern border with Waikato, we're seeing some pretty sharp increases. They're more like 88,000 per unit. There is a great site, though, that you can type in on aucklandcouncil.govt.nz. You can actually just type in that search bar on the top right, development contributions or contributions, and that will direct you to that. You can go to watercare.co.nz to see the same, and that's the same with every council. They do have to publish what the rates are. Alternatively, you can just call them and ask what the rates are. Auckland Council, for example, have development contributions officers that handle this. Other councils have planning officers that will be able to tell you their charge. You can ask them for what is the charge on the 1st of July as well for areas that haven't already put the prices up.
And if you're looking at developing some land that you own or getting under contract, is it going to make a big difference in whether you develop it sooner rather than later?
Auckland Council have put their contributions up on the 29th of May, so no for there. But in other cases, it will make a difference. But in many cases, the rise is like 6%. So it's a difference. It's better to have it than not. If you're about to have a project being done, great. Why don't you lodge that consent in before the 30th of June and get the contribution at that lower level? But for others, it's not going to be able to be avoided, so wouldn't worry too much about it. If you haven't started the project right now, by the time you've got credible enough drawings in to get a stamp on them and get them approved from the process, you're probably too late. So not the end of the world paying the 6% more on that fee.
Yeah, and it's quite fair to believe that if you increase the cost for the developer,
Yes,
that's going to flow through to the purchaser.
absolutely.
Now, is this political football that the development contributions and infrastructure charges should be put straight to the developer, or should it be spread across the whole rate-paying pool?
This is an age-old argument. I have a preference that they get put onto the ratepayer pool a little bit more than they are now, because the reality is that we're adding an extra rateable unit to it, and the land rates, that section's already going up. It's going to have a new rateable unit. We're going to get the uniform annual growth charge part of it, going to get the other rates components for decades and centuries to come. So it does put up an extra barrier. It makes it harder for first homeowners to get properties, investors to create new stock. It's just yet another barrier to do and to finance in an already tough market where there's now some clear evidence of oversupply in many areas, including many cities across New Zealand, most pronounced as Wellington. Auckland's starting to see that a little bit too. So we really should be seeing, in my opinion, more of the higher increase on the general rate pool. It may not be popular in saying it, but I think that actually makes it better economic sense, and it's fairer because of the length of time that we're going to be adding to the rate base.
And if you're looking to get professional services in to help you out, who should you be engaging at the early stages to help with these figures?
Yeah, actually, you can actually do these ones yourself because the information is really easy to get to be able to prepare these figures through. But otherwise, you can do that. You can talk to mentors here, like you have with the HQ group, that can guide you with this and apply their development skill and expertise to guiding you on the path there. Alternatively, you can talk to surveyors, planning consultants in some of the smaller cities and in rural areas. They're often the same person, the surveyor and the planner. They're able to help. And hey, most of the council staff are actually pretty friendly, so you should have a chat to them. They're great people there that'll give you great information.
And you've developed property across lots of different areas. You've got property in Christchurch.
Yes.
You've done stuff in Whangarei, Auckland, other areas.
Yes.
Who's been really good to work with, and which zones are encouraging development? It seems like Auckland Council's probably a bit overwhelmed with what's going on.
Yeah. I wouldn't say they don't encourage you. It's just that when you get these enormous bills to pay 88,000 and 50,000 in certain areas that really turbocharge the amounts that you'd expect. They're more like 30,000 a development contribution. it looks a bit less friendly. But so in general, some of the smaller cities seem a little bit fairer to take a look at, and yeah, some of the ones that you named are good too. But in general, whilst they're a little bit cheaper there, it's sometimes a fact of life is that their land values are a little bit cheaper too. So there's only so much that they can charge without it getting disproportionate and out of control. So I think that there's no substitute for investing in your own patch. It's just that sometimes to get to, if you're being an investor and wanting to do it, you've got to keep an eye on the cash flow. Otherwise, you'll get hit by the Reserve Bank rules. You'll have your debt to income ratios starting to restrict your portfolio growth. So if you're wanting to be a professional property investor and to have decent amounts of passive cash flow from rents, sometimes you've got to look and chase that yield a bit harder, and that's automatically going to push you out of some of the cities like Auckland.
Yep. So it's great to get these insights about contributions and what's going on with council, and appreciate your insights. If you've got any questions for Dave, leave them below, and we'll come back and answer some of them on later podcasts.
Thanks, Andrew. Smash and like the subscribe button.
Final warning, money doesn't wait around. It moves fast, and right now the people making the biggest moves are right here. This is New Zealand's fastest growing property channel for a reason. So if you don't hit subscribe, just remember someone else already did, and they're probably closing their next deal while you're still hesitating. Tick tock.